To everybody. I'm Susan Asadi, Executive Director of the Global Chamber of New York City. I know many of you. There are a couple of you that I'm seeing for the first time, and I wanted to welcome you. I'm not sure if everyone, the other couple of people who are on here are members or not, but please mute your microphones so that we can only hear Charles and myself for a bit, and then we're going to have some time for some questions. If you're not familiar with the Global Chamber, we're a growing global community of CEOs, executives, and leaders, just like the ones you're seeing here today. And we're over 525 metro regions around the world. And I'm so grateful you've taken the time to spend your morning or afternoon or evening with us today. And if you're not one of the speakers, as I said earlier, please mute your microphone, which is basically Charles and myself. We are focused on helping companies grow within and across metropolitan areas, and we are the only organization in the world with hundreds of locations that help executives grow a sustainable business through warm connections and virtual services. So today we're focused on the hot topic of AI with the vertical looking at sales. It's my pleasure to introduce Charles Bernard, who is here with us today. He's the founder of Criteria for Sales Success, and he's also on my advisory board for the New York City chapter of Global Chamber. Thank you, Charles, for joining us. I really appreciate it. He's a sales improvement expert and sought-after keynote speaker who has over 20 years of experience in direct sales, sales leadership, and management consulting. And as the highest performing regional manager for strategic accounts at General Electric, Charles consistently demonstrated his talent for revenue and business growth. In 2004, he founded and currently operates Criteria for Sales Success, a leading Manhattan-based management consultancy firm. It's dedicated to providing strategic and tactical revenue and business growth advice, promoting best practices associated with the Office of the Chief Revenue Officer. He's known for forging successful partnerships with organizations and optimizing overall business performance across all departments within the enterprise to facilitate collaboration exceeding revenue and profit goals. And he has a passion for implementing best practices, such as the one on AI today. So born in Madrid and a graduate of Salesians College in Surrey, England, Charles is an author, dedicated world traveler, triathlete and scuba diver, hiker, and racquetball player. And today I want to thank him very much for joining us because I know his partner recently had a health problem and he's been a wonderful caregiver to her so far. And I know that she is recovering very well. And I just wanted you to know that my prayers are with you, that she recovers very fast. So thank you, Charles. And I'm going to let you share your screen so we can talk about AI and driving sales profit.
What a really great introduction. Thank you so much, Susan. I really appreciate it. For those of you, some of you look familiar. I know Sam, Jacob, I think, and maybe some others know me, and we've spoken before. I've been a member of Global Chamber 2 years. Actually, it may be going on 3 years now because I joined during the pandemic. And it just seemed like a good thing to do. And I'm really happy to see that the organization has continued to grow. And I see a few people that I've recommended and they've joined. So really good to see that the organization's expanding. So I'm going to ask you to unmute if it's okay with Susan, and just set a little context. Who here has used AI in any sales capacity? And typically what I mean by that is either to generate leads or to help them close business or in any other capacity that would generate revenue and profit. And as you share, we'd love to hear what have been some of the highlights and maybe some of the things that didn't work out as well. If any of those occur to you, I'd love to hear those as well.
Well, I've mostly used it on the marketing side. I've used ChatGPT to help with, generating ideas for content marketing, giving me structure. I've learned that you definitely don't take it directly word for word. You could definitely get penalized on certain platforms for it. but like I've used it to create a content marketing plan for my wife's psychotherapy practice on LinkedIn. So things like that, more really on just the content development side, as opposed to, I have resources for doing like a sales page with AI, but haven't quite gotten to implementing that just yet.
Thank you, Sam. Anyone else? So content makes a lot of sense. It's a great tool for generating content for sure. Anybody else used it for maybe something different than generating content?
Yeah, yeah. So like I use it for a wide array of things, from content to concept design to ecosystem building. But I think one of the in terms of adding client value, I think it's something that if you're meeting with someone for the first time, it's a good way to be able to add immediate value to the conversation and move that relationship forward quickly, more faster than usual. Because I think of the ease you can, if used correctly, the ease you can add value to people's work and efforts.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, Jacob. Very clear. Anyone else want to weigh in? Okay. So if you want to interrupt me with any questions or thoughts, please, let's make this interactive as possible. So I'm going to go into PowerPoint mode here, and we're going to talk a little bit about selling and then how AI fits into that, because I think if I can give you a context into what's working today in terms of sales, that might be helpful. But first of all, thank you to Susan and to Global Chamber for setting this up and making this happen. To get the most, please keep your camera on, get involved, and state your name, review the recording. This is a tip that I got from a Zoom expert, and it was funny because, at least funny to me, during the pandemic, a lot of people were very anxious to collaborate and show themselves. And I guess it was still kind of new that everything was virtual. And then as time went on, people started kind of closing their cameras, and you could hear the keyboard typing as people were really not listening. And he said what he does, and now I've assumed a similar role, especially when working with clients, is rather than kind of avoid the elephant in the room, where you really want people to participate so they can see each other, and more importantly, so they're not being distracted with other things. He said, just make the request up front. And this way, people will accept the request or deny the request. But at least if you ask people to participate in this particular way, you get more of a chance of better engagement. So that's just a little tip that sometimes little tips, I don't know if you guys agree, make a big difference. And things like that can really change the dynamic and the chemistry between you and your prospect or your client or your partners, whoever or your employees, right? So today, this is the agenda. I'm going to tap it all out. We're going to cover something called a knowledge matrix. The proper name for it is the problem opportunity matrix, but I call it the knowledge matrix, and I'll explain why. Because I think knowledge is, for me at least, knowledge is power. So knowledge is my superpower. The more I know about something, the more I'm informed, the better decisions I can make, especially when it comes to selling. Then we'll do a little bit about what we have as a product for micro-learning and strategy and goal setting, and then some new technology, what's worth using, and then we'll do an actual live demonstration of ChatGPT in what I call a sales context. So big word here I've highlighted is discovery. My recommendation to everyone who wants to improve selling or wants to improve getting more revenue and profit is to stop doing certain things and start doing more things. So the things I recommend you stop doing is selling. Doesn't that sound weird, right? If you want to sell something, the first thing I'm saying is stop selling. And the way I say that is to practice something called discovery-based selling. And then people raise their hand and say, I think I know what you mean, but I'm not really sure. What does that mean? So my definition for discovery-based selling is answered in the form of a question. And the moment I ask you the question, you'll get it, every one of you. And the question is it better for your prospects and your buyers to be told, to be lectured on how great you are, or is it better for them to discover how great you are? So I think everyone on this Zoom would agree discover is the better option. But to get some interaction, I'd love to hear from you now that you're thinking about it a little bit. Why? Why is it more important for people to discover your value versus you tell them? Why do you think?
Hey, hi, can you hear me? This is Barry.
Yes, we can hear you, Barry. Thank you.
I'm not on video because I'm driving, and I don't think you'd want me on video.
No,
At any rate,
we want you to be safe.
exactly. I think that any kind of selling or coaching or training requires what you're saying is discovery, because you have to discover it for yourself, or it's conceptual, you know? So people experiencing the value or the contribution, or that I'm a commitment to them or to what they're about, makes a huge difference in your relationship with them, rather than they know you conceptually. Like reading the menu in a restaurant is different than eating the meal. Kind of like
Right.
that.
Right. It's like you're not really I love that analogy. That's great.
Yep, there you go.
Thank you. Susanna, you had your hand raised.
Hi, Charles. How are you? Greetings from Barcelona. I would say that it's a matter of expectations. So it's better that they discover, and then they're like, wow, rather than you saying, I can do all that. Maybe they're like, no, okay. That's my opinion.
Yes. Hace muchos años que he ido a Barcelona. Nosotros de Madrid y de España decimos Barcelona con la Z. Here in the US, everyone calls it Barcelona. So it's kind of funny. Food is great. Been there. I was in Madrid recently for New Year's last year. Yes. So expectation setting, it's like the buyer is setting their own expectations. So I'll give you an example, because I think the natural question people are going to ask me is, okay, great idea that people discover your value. How do you make that happen? And I think questions are more important than answers. Answers are important, but I often find that the answers you get on anything, to make a decision, to buy something, to sell something, anything, is really framed by the quality of the question. And so one question that I think flips traditional selling to discovery selling, like we're talking about, is a very simple question. And it's the opposite of the question that every salesperson is asking. So the question that every salesperson is asking is, what's needed to make a sale right now? If you just tweak that question and say, what's needed to enable this buyer to buy right now, I would argue that that second question drives much different answers. Because if I'm asking a question about what's needed to make a sale right now, almost all the answers are going to refer to something I need to do or something I need to say. And the more I do and say things, the less involved the buyer is. Have you ever noticed that? You ever notice that when you're talking, you feel like sometimes you're talking to a wall because the other person's not responding? So if you ask yourself the same question, but just from the buyer's perspective, you might start to ask questions of the buyer. Like if I said to myself, what's needed to enable buying right now? I might say, well, I need to ask a good question. A bad question is what keeps you up at night. So if you're one of those people that asks that question, I would recommend you stop asking that question. A lot of salespeople ask that question. It's a bad question in my mind, because what keeps you up at night implies, I don't know what your problems are. What keeps you up at night implies I haven't done my homework. What keeps you up at night enables the person to respond with anything. My dogs keep me up at night. My children keep me up at night. The traffic outside my house keeps me up at night. The problem with a question like that is that you don't get meaningful data. So good questions are ones that pinpoint specific problems. And I'll give you an example. A good question would be something like, if I know I'm selling to Susanna and she's the CEO of a logistics company, right? You do shipping. And I said to Susanna, instead of what keeps you up at night, I say, Susanna, tell me where you have broken supply chain. There's only two possible answers. She has a broken supply chain. She doesn't have a broken supply chain. If she doesn't have a broken supply chain, that's fine. I've got 20 questions that I could ask her. So that one didn't land. I would say, tell me about delays in shipments and how much that's costing you. And if that was on target, Susanna is likely her whole body will change. She'll start to say, wow, you just nailed my problem. But did you notice I didn't nail her problem? I just asked her a question. And now all I'm doing is inviting her to share, well, we had this situation. And then I start to do active listening, which I'll show you in a minute. So that's an example of why discovery-based selling flips the script and really it stops you selling and catches yourself doing things that are really pushing the buyer away. That's what I think selling does. It actually disengages the buyer. And that's what we were just talking about. So I'll leave you these. I'll send these slides to Susan, or I don't know, Susan, what's the best way to get the slides to everybody? Send them to you? Send them to you. Okay. So along the theme of what I was talking about, so this is kind of background selling before we get into AI, because I want to help you discover a few things that you may not have heard before. If anyone wants to jump in with comments or thoughts, let me know. So there are two sides to buying and selling. They're obvious. You got a buy side and you got a sell side. So when you're in a consultative sell, and people oftentimes go, they raise their hand, what's a consultative sell? The best way to describe a consultative sell is where you're problem solving. Now, there are some businesses who don't want to solve problems. They're like, price, terms, this is how you buy, go get it. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to discuss your problems. There are companies that do that. But most of the companies that I've come across and all the companies we work with are B2B, problem solving. In fact, the more complex your problems that you solve are, the more we can help you, because that's our world. Like, it's all about problem solving. So if you're practicing a consultative problem solving sale, what's the first thing you need? You need problems, right? It's interesting because I ask that question and people say you need solutions. And I go, yes, but you don't talk about solutions unless you've got problems. So selling, the part of selling that I think is the most important is to have problems be named. And so that's either the buyer names the problem or the seller names the problem. I prefer it if the buyer names the problem. But like I said before, I don't just go to Susanna and say, tell me what your problems are, because she needs a little bit of process to think through her problem. She's not just going to spit out whatever she wants. So I'm going to make sure that we name problems that are important. Most people stop there, believe it or not. They're like, I got the problems, now let me start selling. I would say there are two more steps that you need to complete so that you've really done a good job helping the buyer frame what the problem is. They need to connect with the problem. And that's what I was practicing when I gave that example with Susanna. Connecting to a problem helps the buyer connect to how important is that problem? What's the cost of not taking care of that problem? What's the impact to the business, to other people, to wherever? So the way you do that is through active listening. easiest sales technique ever. And active listening always, for me at least, starts with one simple phrase. And you may laugh. I don't hear salespeople using this phrase. You know why? Because they're waiting to sell. I got a problem. Boom. Let me start telling you how I can solve that problem. I think you need to stop that and wait for the right moment to jump, not jump too early. And the best way to stop yourself from jumping into sales mode too early is to say this phrase, tell me more. Tell me more. So if I said to Susanna in that example, tell me about where you're getting delays in shipment, she might say, yeah, that's a problem. Great, tell me more. Do you notice that I don't say, yeah, I can solve that for you, Susanna. Look, let me tell you how much I'm going to do to help you. I don't want to do that yet. I want to understand. And here's what she's telling me. Well, we're coming out of COVID. There is a lot of there's a lot of backlog. There's a ton of delays. And I'm saying, great, what have you done about it? Well, we hired this consulting company to come in, maybe a competitor of mine, and we paid them $100,000. And they kind of gave us some advice. They didn't really solve the problem. And I'm making notes because I'm going to come back to all that information, right? And then I say, okay, can I ask you a personal question? How does that impact you? Now, I always like to keep that kind of at the bottom after I've done a bunch of questions, because when I ask that question, I want Susanna to perceive me as a partner who really cares about your business and who you are. So you can ask it many different ways. You could say, how does that impact you personally? You could say, what's the impact to you? You could say, how long have you been struggling with this problem? And what's the consequences to you if this doesn't get resolved? Just some way to turn it from a sort of intellectual set of questions to more emotional, more personal. And then the last thing, to me, this is the most important, but I always wait until the end because, number one, I know what the problem is. I know what the severity and the impact of the problem is, but I want you to see my solution not as a cost, but as an investment. Because most companies will go to cost unless you remind them that that's not helpful for them. Because if they're in a cost mindset, they keep thinking that they're giving away money. And they're peeling away from their budget. That's a disempowering conversation. If on the other hand, they think I'll pay you $100,000 and I'm getting back $500,000, then they're going to do that all day long. So what we need to do as sellers is to help buyers perceive the solution you're about to give them as an investment. And most salespeople panic at this point. They get crazy. Why do they panic? Because they think I'm not a finance person. I can't really genuinely say the ROI in numbers. First of all, I got two answers for that panic attack. One is there are many ways to measure ROI. There's ROI in dollars. There's ROI, return on expectation, return on effort, return on time. There's a lot of ways you can get a return. The better thing to handle the panic attack is option 2. Option 2 is you don't need to tell people the ROI. You need to ask them. So if I were talking to Susanna again, I would say, Susanna, before I talk about my solution, what kind of a return are you looking for? What does success look like? That's my favorite question. When you ask someone, what would make this a success for you? What does success look like? You're now getting a real connection between your solution and their perceived success, and you want to connect the two. Does that make sense to people? Any questions or thoughts about that? All right, so that's the buy side. On the sell side, because there's two sides. On the sell side, we want you doing 4 things. asking good questions, not the what keeps you up at night question, but targeted questions. So you can uncover problems, then you can discuss solutions, and then tell stories, because telling stories or giving examples is a story. I'm not talking about a case study. I'm talking about something in the conversation. You can just say, oh, we have a client just like you, same problem. Here's what we did. They saw a 30% increase in sales. That to me is an example of a story, right? And the reason why stories are so important is story is the best way to practice discovery-based selling, right? If you tell a story, if I told a story to Danielle and to Ruben and to Sam and to Susanna and to Barry, the same story, if we were to kind of light your brain up like under a CAT scan, we would see different parts of your brain, each one of you, perceiving that story. So one person might be painting a picture of a house in a field. Someone else may be painting, same story, painting a picture of a building in a city. Blue sky, sun, trees, it doesn't matter. You're doing all that painting. So those are the 4 things: ask a question, uncover problems, discuss solutions, tell stories. Then I'm going to ask you a question, and most people give me silence in response. How many of you have written down 20 best questions to ask? How many of you have written down 20 problems that you solve? How many of you have written down 20 solutions to those problems? And more importantly, how many of you have a library of 20 stories? And that's the answer I get. I get no answer. So what we're going to do. Question?
I wanted to tell you, I mean, I do have 2 or 3, but not 20, and I do have stories, but yeah, I'm impressed. You have really got us completely silent. This is great. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. So some of you have started. That's good. You're ahead of most people. So what I want you to do is take the time to develop this for your company. And if you take the time to develop, so I've only got room on this screen for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, right? I want you to develop 20 rows. And the way you start is a column of features. That's how you start this process. And I'm going to tell you why this is very valuable. Some of you work alone, and some of you work with other people in your company. Anyone here have more than one person in their company? Okay, some of you do and some of you don't. Okay, that's great. The more people that work on this together, the better, because you get better information and you transfer knowledge with each other. That's what this tool does primarily. So what I want you to do is name all the features of your business. So in this example, we've got a lighting company, and the name is Volticore. So they've created Volti Lightning, Volti Eco Compliant, Volti. So for every feature, you make it sound unique, because when buyers hear something that sounds unique, like if I said to you, oh, we have this Eco Compliant feature, the buyer, this is what's going on in their brain. Oh, yeah, you and everybody has an Eco Compliant feature. All your competitors have Eco Compliant features. So no matter what business you're in, whenever you define a feature, you want to make it sound unique. Why? Because I'm a buyer and I go, well, I've heard of Eco Compliant features, but what is Volti? Volti Eco Compliant? That sounds interesting. I don't know what that is. What is that? So in other words, you want to make every feature sound unique. If you struggle, like me and a few others, like, oh, I don't know how to spend a lot of time putting some good names together, just stick the name of your company in front of it and it's unique. So if you put your company name in front of every feature or a version of that, it's unique. So if we go across now, what is the benefit of each feature? So Volti Lightning, the benefit is it's fast charging. What's the problem? The problem is always the opposite. So if fast charging is the benefit, the problem is slow charging. The question now it gets easy. The question is, please tell me about, followed by the problem. So could you tell me about struggles with slow charging? Yes, no, they have it. They're going to tell you a lot. They don't have it, you move on. And then I want you to have one of those success stories. And then people raise their hand and go, excuse me, I'm not good with stories. I don't know how to tell stories. You don't have to worry about that. You just have to remember 3 things for a story. What was the problem? So in this case, a client warehouse operation was interrupted by slow charging. That's the problem. All the stories are the same. They always have the same structure. The second is, what was your solution? We came in with Volti Lightning solution. And number 3, what was the tangible benefit? We reduced interruptions by 90%. What do you guys remember the most? 90%.
The last, yeah.
Absolutely, the percentage.
Yeah, the
The
benefit.
percentage. So
Yeah.
I want you to do something. Do me a favor. Whenever you fill this table out and you write a story, and like I know, Susanna, you have some stories. Go back to your stories, and if you don't have it, insert a punchline that has a number. Why? You might say, why? Well, because people react to numbers, just like I showed, when I said people go 90%, wait a minute, they didn't hear anything. This happens in real life. They don't hear you. You're like, let me tell you a story. And you tell your story and they're all like falling asleep. And then all of a sudden you go 90% and they go, what? What'd you just say? How'd you do that? So everyone realized that's the best thing a buyer could do, right? Because they're interested. So it also makes it credible. It also makes it real. It also makes it something you're proud of. Some people go, well, I can't put a number on it. Well, here's how you put a number on something you can't put a number on. Better than 50% of our clients have said they're satisfied. Do you see what I just did? I could have said most of our clients said they're satisfied, but that doesn't have as much impact. If I said more than 50%, now I put a number into the story. So I want you to do this 20 times. Why? Because of the next thing. You can't use this in a sales situation. So I'm going to change it and show you something. This is where the miracle happens. If you do this with other people, a lot of knowledge is like, is there a better way to say feature? Is there a better way? Is that really the benefit? What's the real problem? That doesn't sound really like a problem. All of that information that you're exchanging, even if you do the exercise alone, gives you a lot of clarity on your business. Once you've got that clarity, I want you to do something else. I want you to copy all the problems. Now, let's say you have a chart of 20. I'd say pick 9. I like odd numbers, 9 or 10 of the most impactful problems. So if I'm talking to somebody and I know a little bit about them and I do a Zoom call, I'm going to pick the 9 most common problems and I'm going to create a chart like this. Common problems Volticore solves. And I've got them all listed, and problems are always negative, unable, slow, poor. Now, what just happened? If I'm talking to Jacob and Jacob's my buyer, what's the agenda for my meeting? Am I going to spend a lot of time talking about how long I've been in business? I'm the number 1. I speak Spanish also. That's got to be good for you, right? So he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That's got nothing to do with me. You being around for 20 years and speaking Spanish, I don't even speak Spanish. I don't know what you're talking about. But you know what? That's what most salespeople do. Let me tell you about how long we've been in business. Let me tell you what's good about us. Instead, if I say to Jacob before this slide, one slide, Jacob, what would you like to get out of this meeting? I'd like to understand about whatever he says. I might say, I'd like to find out if we're a fit. Would that be a good agenda for today? Yeah. And then I go to this slide. Now, what just happens? If Jacob says, and he's interested in battery solutions, and he goes, wow, number 1, number 5, and number 9, what just happened to the meeting? Anybody?
He's engaged.
Right?
Yeah.
And how much talking did I do? And if very little, right? So if Jacob says number 1, number 5, and number 9, what am I going to do? Hey, I got a solution. Let me jump on you. Or am I going to do something else? Tell me more.
Tell me more.
Tell me more. Slow charging. And I'm making notes. And then number 5, charging stations, not cloud. Tell me more. What's happening? What have you done? What have you tried to do to solve the problem? And number 9, okay, what have you done? Right? And then you can either say, you know, we have a client who actually had that same problem, and we did this and we increased their productivity by 70%. I just dropped a little story just to get him interested before I get into the big monster presentation, right? So we think goals are important, and that's where I want to spend the rest of today, because if we don't have goals for selling or goals for anything, we're sort of very random. We're doing things, you know, without much purpose. So goals have 5 things I like to talk about. They need to be scheduled in your calendar. So goals, if you put a list of goals and you don't allocate time in your calendar to work on those goals, you have 2 problems. You don't know when you're working on those goals. You don't know if you have time to work on those goals. And reviewed is, you know what's funny when I work with people? They set goals on a Monday morning. When do you think they set more goals? When do you think they look at their goals again? They set their goals Monday morning. And then when do they look at their goals again after they've set them?
Next Monday morning.
The next Monday morning, because now they're, so what happens is we set goals and forget about them. Set goals and forget about them. So I have a discipline that I'd like to invite you to do, and that is create a checklist of 3 things you're going to do at the beginning of the day that includes looking at your goals, and 3 things that you plan on doing at the end of the day that includes looking at your goals. So for example, I have more than 3, but here are the 3 that I would recommend. Look at your calendar, look at your email, look at your goals. At the end of the day, look at your calendar, look at your email, look at your goals. And if you feel like it, one more thing. This has been something else, a gift that another coach gave me. And she said, I love your routines at the beginning and the end of the day, but I got another routine for you at the end of the day. Oh yeah? What's that? Ask yourself 2 questions. What are you grateful for? Who did you help today? And the reason I like that, practicing gratitude at the end of the day, is it gives you context. It gives you a purpose. Like, did you achieve? Did you help someone? Are you grateful for stuff? They start with the CEO. So goals start at the top, and then all the goals in the company follow those goals. Do you know how many people don't do that? I would say most people. Everyone's setting their own goals differently, and they're not aligned. That's number 3. Goal apps are critical, and AI powers next-gen goals. So I'm going to show you our app that I mentioned earlier. So our app is called Collavia. You get a toolbox, which is a whole bunch of links. You get announcements from the company, and then you get announcements from us. There's videos in our tool, so you can get 5-minute kind of coaching videos, right? So here's an example of one.
Stories and storytelling. Human beings are hardwired for stories. This starts in childhood, and it continues as you grow. When you hear a story, your brain is activated in multiple areas as if you were experiencing what happened in the story. When you're speaking with a...
So these are short videos. There's a playlist associated with this video. And I think that's what I call micro-learning. So if you're trying to help others in your company, or just yourself, remind yourself of best practices, you can look at, there's about 20 videos here. The strategy hub is my favorite, because that's where you create your playbook. You can link to that, you edit the page, you change the content in an editor, and then you close. And this platform allows you also to be able to put in videos, just like you saw. You've got 5 areas for your playbook. So this is your sales playbook with all your processes. We'll come back to this. And then goal setting. So I'm Jane Hurst. I'm logged in as the CEO, and I'm tracking goals. but I'm tracking goals for me and my team. So I can track my own individual goals and I can set goals for the team. So you'll see here, if I sort by owner, we've got Hillary, she reports to me, and then we've got me, individuals. You can see these are individual goals. And then I can keep going to team goals, and each goal has a period, right? I have an editor. I can open up the goal. I can look at the history of the goal, if there is some. I can put in comments, and these get emailed to people who own the goals. So goals are important, and they need to be tracked in something like this. This is a pretty good, straightforward, simple goal setting tool by period. So annual, quarter, month, week. Are you guys familiar with Traction EOS? Anyone heard of that company? So it's like it's a methodology to set goals and track goals and achieve goals. And that's what this does. It's very similar. But here's now where I want to show you, you can download your goals. If I click download, I get them in Excel. And then if I want to look at the goals in Excel, I can do that, right? Pretty straightforward. There they are. They're all the goals that I just downloaded. So if I want to massage them a little more, that's fine. We also have something called AI Helper, and this is what I want to show you because we haven't seen this in any other tool. So now we're using AI to align or suggest goals. So I'm a CEO. Let's say I need the AI to help me. So because it takes time to think about goals. It takes time to think about goals that relate to other goals. So for example, what's my role? Well, I'm the CEO. I could change that, VP of sales. Let's say I want you, the AI, to check goals for 2024. I want you to set goals, check my goals for January. Also, check my goals for February and suggest some goals for March. Let me make sure I did that right. Suggest some goals for March 2024. So March 2024. Any additional information, I could say just limit it to this and that. I'm just going to say none. And then I say generate. What's happening behind the scenes is the AI is looking at all the goals I set for the year, for each month. I could have said for the quarter, and I could then decide what period do I want the AI to recommend. It takes a while because it's going through, like, you know, when you see ChatGPT, it's actually giving you the answers. Here it's doing in the background. And what it's given us is a list of goals. Not only that, it's saying this goal relates to this other goal you have. So secure the CFO position because I'm looking to hire a CFO. That relates to hired new CFO by end of Q1. So the AI is smart enough to be able to look at all your goals for all the periods in time, figure out what period you're looking at, and then I can say, okay, set goals for, let's say, April for the heck of it. And let's take all of those goals. I don't have to. I can say, man, I'm not interested in that goal or this goal. And then I say create goals. And the AI has created those goals. Didn't take long. Now I go to goals. And now I can filter for, I think it was April I just put in here. And what you see is a list of entries. Let's clear this all, start again. So now what I'm looking at is April 2024. So 12 goals. And I got 100 entries. Okay. So you can see all the ones with an asterisk and a little AI logo, all those goals were set by the AI. So if I want to modify them, I can just go in, edit the goal. I can change the names or whatever. Or I can use a detail editor and it'll say this goal is generated by AI. I can change it instead of myself. I want to make it for the leadership team. I want to update the strat status, etc. So did you see what you may have missed the significance. If we didn't have AI, we would be trying to look at all our goals that we've set for the year, et cetera. We're trying to juggle all this information. And then we got to figure out, okay, how do I set new goals? But it gets even more complicated when I'm a salesperson and my VP of sales has set goals for the department and his boss, the CEO, has set goals for the company. The AI can look at all those goals, not just my goals, everybody's goals in my line of command, in my chain of command. You can also go across, right? I'm the CEO setting goals for sales, operations, human resources, finance, and marketing. And that can align as well. So just wanted you to see the power of putting AI into a goal setting application, because it's really important that you set good goals and you set goals, period. Any questions before we move on?
No, I had one. Hi again, this is Barry. I think the other critical piece in this would be the actions that one needs to take to unequivocally fulfill on those goals. And the way I recommend it is to have those actions in your calendar and take them.
Yes.
Otherwise, a goal out there is great, but if you don't take any action to produce it, and that is one of our common problems that people have.
That's a really good point, Barry. And I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. So make sure if I've got a ton of goals for this week, because I could even look at, all right, what week are we in? Let's say we're in week 1, and I've got a whole bunch of goals, right? For me, they're individual. If I'm not matching those to my calendar, I'm not really aware of what I should be doing to focus on making those goals happen. So I totally understand what you're saying. Also, what we also see, Barry, is a lot of people color code their calendar. So so my colors are green, blue, yellow, red. So I'll tell you why color coding is valuable, because any event in Outlook, if you look at my calendar, so let's show you my calendar. If we were to look at my calendar in Outlook, you see there's all these colors like green. My partner was in the hospital, so you see a lot of stuff was blocked out. But red are internal meetings. Green are sales-related meetings. Blue are client-related meetings. My team has a lot of blue because they're delivering. So you look at a calendar, you can quickly see, am I spending enough time selling? Am I spending too much time on internal meetings, those red calendars? And yellow is I've held that time. It needs to be confirmed. So I just wanted you to get a sense of how that works with your calendar. That's a good point. I want to give you a demo, which I promised I would. So let's go to the next slide and let's talk about a case study. So these are a whole bunch of documents that I prepared ahead of time. So I just want you to see the power of AI. So this is a Google Doc, and I just want to walk you through it quickly because this is replicating if I were to put a query. Now you can put queries into a document and then copy and paste them into ChatGPT. So 2023 company annual goal. So I'm the CEO setting these goals for the company at the beginning of 2023, and I've set 6. I could have set 10, 20. Achieve consistent growth in sales. Ensure we're profitable every quarter, and I actually spell out the goal number. Expand our client base. Forge partnerships. Grow revenue. Implement a new compensation package. So what I'm putting in here is I want to load this in first. So I'm telling the AI to stand by. What's in red is what I want us to see. The AI sees it all. I'm going to provide a series of queries to help my staff with goal setting. Don't comment on this as the queries will follow. I haven't set them yet. I will number the queries for ease of reference. Just stand by. So watch what happens. I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to put this into ChatGPT. And We're going to create a new query. And it's saying, understood, I'm ready. I got your goals, the 6 goals. What do you want me to do? Okay. So now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to say, query 1, my goals as a VP of sales. As a VP of sales, what should my annual goals be that align with those company goals that I just sent you? In addition, break out my department's closed sales by quarter. And so I'm basically saying, give me the information by quarter. Assume I want sales to be at least 1/4 of the annual target. And how should I deal with company goals 3, 4, 5, and 6, which I had here? Expand our client base. ABC company will forge relationships. So I picked specific goals that I want the AI to help me align on. So I'm going to copy that. Give the answers in short bullet points. And I'm going to put that into the AI. Let's see what the AI does. And right away, it's telling me, okay, here's what you should be focused on. Aim to close 2.5 million for the year. For the quarter, close at least 7.5 million each quarter. Address company goal 3, because I asked you to look at these goals, 3, 4, and 5. Develop strategies to attract new clients, coordinate marketing. There's a whole bunch of stuff that it's telling me to do, right? Now, is this going to give me everything I need to do? No. But does it get me a start? I would say yes. So I could copy this into a document, change it, add some things, or because AI is a learning model, I could say, give me 2 more bullets. And it'll say, okay, here's a couple more things that you might want to focus on. So there is that interactivity that you can have, right? It's suggesting that I enhance customer engagement. It's making a suggestion on monitoring and adjustment. So the beauty about something like this is you can not only get a nice answer, but you can interact with it. Let's go back to the document. This time, I'm a salesperson. So I get all the VP, I get all the CEOs. How should I organize my goals in January? Let's see what the AI says. So as a salesperson under the VP of sales, here are the goals you should align with the VP of sales. Quarterly sales contribution, building your sales pipeline, client acquisition. So you can see it's literally keeping a record of all the stuff that's happened ahead of it so that you can do this. Now, this is me showing it to you in ChatGPT. What I showed you before is our platform is doing exactly the same thing, but it's putting it into a goal and into a structure that you can use. That's why it's essentially a software as a service application you can use anywhere. Just show you a couple more things and then I can take questions.
Charles, I just want to let you know we have 5 more minutes. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're done after this. So VP of marketing, analyze my pipe. So I could do the same. I'm not going to bore us with the VP of marketing, but one thing I do want to show you is I want you to analyze my pipeline. So I'm a salesperson. I want you to analyze and tell me what I should be focused on. And what it's telling us is what are the high probability deals I should be closing? What are the things I should be working on that are likely to close sooner than later? And the interactive part on this is I would then say, how do I report this information to my boss? My boss wants a weekly update. What should I tell her? I report to my VP of sales. Her name is Jane. What do I tell Jane? So all of this is not doing the work for me, but it's really getting me to that place where I'm probably at least 50% more productive because I didn't have to do all this sorting and analyzing on my own. Look how it's broken it out by week, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I had for you guys today, and I'm very happy to take any questions or thoughts or ideas this might have generated for you. Or just your feedback would be great.
Charles, it's Danielle. Great, loved it. Learned a lot. Loved how you said, write down the 20 questions, 20 stories, 20 solutions. I have never done that. I mean, I had some questions, but I think it's refocused me, especially for the new year. Perfect timing. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. That's great. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you very much, Charles. It's been very insightful.
Great.
Yeah, Charles, this is Barry. I thought your presentation was brilliant. This is the first time I've actually heard something that just rings true for me in my experience of being a consultant for the last 30 some odd years. So I wouldn't mind following up with you and hearing this video again.
Yeah,
That's
that,
possible.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
I'll make sure, Barry, and everybody else that we get this presentation out to you. So Charles, share it with me and I'll make sure everyone gets it. I mean, I have one question. I know everyone is giving you good feedback. What is the additional cost by using Collavia? Is there something you wanted to share about?
Yeah, so right now we're introducing Collavia at an introductory price of $99 for 25 users, up to 25 users, $99 a month, and that's just to get users. But I do want to say something to all of you. There's an opportunity for each of you if you contact me, because we're looking for partners. We're looking for people who are working with clients and they don't have a product like this, and they can bring this product to their own work. And what we're doing is we're setting up a whole partner program to help you use this tool, this platform, to serve your customers and your clients. Because a lot of people don't know how to set goals. They need a coach. And a coach is going to say, all right, let's set goals. It's the new year. What are we going to do? Oh, well, that's not necessary. Is that a good goal? Is there a better goal? Did you think of this other thing?
No, I'm here. This is Barry.
Sorry, Barry. You're talking. I don't know if you were talking to us, but
Sorry about that.
No worries. So the point is, please email me. Please get in touch with me. I would love to hear from you. I'm actually going to drop, if it'll let me, I think it will. I'm dropping my calendar in the chat, so we can just go straight to a meeting. If you want to do a 30-minute chat, how do I help you? How do you help me? And Susan, obviously, we're in this together. So thank you for the opportunity to present this information to you today.
Yeah, I thought it was fabulous, Charles. Thank you so much. I think the questions you and I came up with, I feel like they've been addressed pretty much in this interactive dynamic. So I wanted to thank everybody for attending, and please, if you're, in the New York market, please stay active, and otherwise, on the virtual platform, looking forward to having people like Jermiel. I'm glad you attended. New members, Jacob, you're new in the New York. Well, you're not in the New York market, but you and I have just done something recently. It was just so great to see so many people here today. And Suzanne, I'd love a chance to speak with you offline. I'll reach out to you. The next upcoming New York City hosted event that we have on the calendar is January 23rd, and Melanie Fox, which a lot of people here know, she has a company, Speech Fox. We're going to be talking about confidence with speaking a foreign language. We have a couple of other people who may be participating in that as well. One of them is Christopher Shelley, who's also a New York City member. So hope everybody has a good holiday planned, and look forward to seeing all of you. I know Global Chamber Headquarters has a big networking event coming up on Friday, so maybe we'll see you there. And thanks to you once again, Charles, and happy holidays to everyone, and happy 24.
Be well.
Thank you. Take care.